I'm in Jakarta, Indonesia on a warm, hot, muggy day. But the car I have with me today is arguably even hotter. Toyota's all-new Fortuner. Now the Fortuner, the original car, created something of a sensation when it was launched in 2009. It was rugged, it was fantastic off-road, it was comfortable and was even used as a pseudo-luxury car. But that car today is getting a bit long in the tooth. The ride is a bit lumpy, the engine is a bit unrefined and the interiors, well, they're extremely plain. How good is this all-new car? Let's find out. Whereas the earlier Fortuner was a simple and upright SUV with rounded off corners and a wraparound rear windscreen, this new one is so rakish, it's more Lexus than Toyota. It has a really high bumper line, the grille is tilted back sharply, and the long headlamp pods with LED running lights provide the perfect contrast. Chrome bracketing has also been used to good effect. Thick bands surround the grille and they've been used around the fog lamps as well. The Fortuner, however, looks best when viewed from the side. The distinctive kick up in the window line looking really fantastic. And around the back, the wraparound rear windshield and the beautifully cut tail lamps, they work brilliantly too. The new Fortuner has a near identical wheelbase to the earlier car, but this new car is both longer and wider, and this gives it an advantage when it comes to cabin space. Just as on the outside, the interiors are all new and a big step up from the current Fortuner. What I particularly like is this collared center console with these leather bits. The steering wheel is nice, functionality is good, the plastic buttons are nice. And what I particularly like is this large and comfortable seat. It's supportive in the right places and has just the right cushioning. The increase in dimensions are clearly felt on the inside. The cabin in general feels much airier and even the all-round visibility has improved. There's also a sense of style here. There's a nice flow to the dash, there are plenty of stylized bits like the one above the glove box. And another useful bit is the information screen that sits at the center of the instrument panel. There are, however, some not so fantastically finished bits. The glove box feels cheaply put together, the fake wood near the gear lever is very plasticky, and the door pads, well, they aren't special either. Still, it's a very practical cabin with plenty of space to store things like bottles, phones and other odds and ends. And you even get conveniences like keyless go and stop start, which you didn't get on the earlier car. There's even a bit of usable luggage space in the rear with all 3 rows up. And if you need additional space, the third row seats can be folded to the sides, giving you even more room. Toyota have even improved space on the third row. It is a bit fiddly getting in. But once you're seated in the back, there's a bit more leg room, a bit more headroom, and the shoulder room is pretty good. You have your AC vent here, the center seat gets its own seat belt, cup holders here. It's pretty comfortable and you're not sat too low. Where the Fortuner is much nicer is in the back seat. There's a lot more legroom despite the fact that this car is built on the same wheelbase as the earlier Fortuner. There's a lot more thigh support, you're sat higher off the ground, the backrest is nicer. But the thing that makes the biggest difference is the fact that the ride is a bit more supple. It's a bit more comfortable, it absorbs the bumps better. Yes, it is a bit lumpy, it still is a bit lumpy because it's a body-on-frame SUV. But the overall experience, sat here in the back, that's a big step ahead. But now, let's just get behind the wheel. Fortuner has always benefited from sharing its frame with the incredibly tough Hilux pickup. And this one is even better. It's a full 20% stiffer. The new chassis has given the Fortuner an all-new sense of agility. To begin with, it's much more planted, and then it likes taking corners much better. It just turns in with a sense of confidence that you'd never had in the earlier car, and if you want, you can even push it a bit as long as you don't overstep the limits. Yes, the new Fortuner still rolls like the Titanic, and this is a bit disconcerting initially, but like that fat man who can dance, it has a fairly good sense of balance. What this new Fortuner is also much nicer at is straight line stability. It feels much more planted, is much more relaxed at high speed, and it even is nice flowing into high speed corners. Just don't need to make so many corrections or pay so much attention, and that's much better. Even the brakes are much better. I find myself braking with plenty of confidence, and they are even much nicer in traffic where you even need that bite when it comes to stopping suddenly. However, in slower moving traffic, the steering remains heavy, and this can be quite irritating, especially when you want to swap lanes. Now, powering the new Fortuner will be a new set of engines similar to the 2.4 and 2.8 diesels seen on the new Innova. And there's also a new 6-speed automatic gearbox with paddle shifters this time around, which the Innova doesn't get. The Fortuner we have with us today is the smaller 2.4-litre engine with an automatic gearbox. This two-wheel drive Fortuner is powered by a 2.4-litre engine that makes 149 bhp. And while that's good enough for most situations, cruising, generally overtaking people in the city, it does lack a bit of punch when you really put your foot down. It labors, it takes its time, and that real hit of performance you want isn't there. Idle is a bit gravelly, and though you know it isn't too loud, this clearly is a diesel. Refinement levels, however, improve as soon as you get the engine spinning a bit faster. You get a nice slug of torque around 2200 RPM, but push it above 4000 RPM and it does begin to protest a bit. And the other problem with this engine is that it's a bit unrefined, especially when you pull it hard. Get around 3500 RPM and there's a real din. Driving at a leisurely pace isn't an issue, but as soon as you want to overtake, you have to plan it in advance. What Toyota has also done is given this car paddle shifts, and while this isn't a performance car, the paddles do make it easier to use that small amount of performance this car has. The gearbox is quick, the paddles work effectively, and it is quite nice when you click down twice and get that little bit of performance to overtake someone. As on the Innova, there are 3 driving modes: Eco, Normal and Power. And for faster traffic, it's best to use the Power mode, which significantly improves the amount of grunt you have in the bottom end of this engine. Thankfully, we'll also get the more powerful 177 horsepower 2.8-litre diesel in India. And performance with that engine will be much stronger. That the new Fortuner is a big step forward, there's no doubt. It looks much more attractive on the outside, it's much more comfortable on the inside, and it still has that rugged, tough build. It isn't perfect, however. Some of the plastics on the inside aren't up to scratch, the engine is a bit unrefined, and when it comes to India, it's going to be priced at around 30 lakhs for the top spec car. Question is it better than the new Ford Endeavour? Well, that's something we can only answer when we have both cars on the same piece of road at the same time.